why does racism continue to be a problem in America?
My son, right? My son, he goes to Perry Hall Middle School, and they had to do this homework assignment where they had to talk about right before they passed the 13th Amendment. And right before they passed the 13th Amendment, they had what was it, the great, not the Great Migration, but the where everybody was moving to the West. And they were giving people land and farmland if they could stay out there for 10 years. They gave them the land for
You
free.
mean like the Trail of Tears, right?
I'm not one. I forgot what it's called, but it had to do with America trying to get people to move to the West.
Yeah.
And so they were giving away free land if people stayed on the land for 5 years and farmed and things like that. Well, my son is being taught this, and he's bringing home this information to me. And I had to tell him, well, this happened before 1865. So you, sir, weren't even considered human in this country. So you didn't have the privilege of being able to go to the West and stay there and farm for 5 years and get free land. It was just not possible for you. And so I think that racism continues to stay a problem, especially in this country, is because my son goes to a predominantly white school. Although there are other black students there, it's predominantly white. And these kids aren't getting the information that I'm teaching my son when he comes home to make sure that he's able to understand this information he's getting in school properly, because he thinks that he could have moved out in the 1860s and gone to the West and got land, but that wasn't for him. And the teachers in those schools are not teaching this information, but they're teaching the dream of America. They're teaching about America on the surface, but not really teaching the issues to all the students so that they understand not only what their ancestors did or what their ancestors were capable of, but how to even change America from that perspective moving forward.
And piggybacking off of that, Titus, about what you were just saying about what they're being taught in school and everything like that, do you think that that contributes to why having conversations like this about racism in America is so hard, especially with white people? Because you see them a lot of times, they get you know very like shifty and nervous when
Mhm.
you start talking about it, like you're blaming
Absolutely.
them,
Yeah.
Hmm.
like you're blaming them. We're not blaming you. We're
Right.
saying that there's an issue in this country and we need to figure out a solution to it.
Absolutely. I think that there's this thing, and it was funny because a white person released this information to me. There's this thing called white fragility, right? Where it's like the fear of being identified as a racist or even being equally responsible for the sins of their ancestors. And so I think that one of the other issues that white people have in their culture is that every other race actually has over the years, if you go to the black community and there's gang violence or there's drug issues, the black community as a whole takes responsibility for their community. We don't leave it to an individual to fix themselves and leave that responsibility on them. We take it upon ourselves to go out and correct our youth. We take it upon ourselves to go out and try to fix the issues that plague our communities, whereas the white race does not go out as a group to change the things that their ancestors have done. They don't take responsibility for what the person who killed 9 people in the church, they don't take responsibility for him. They disassociate themselves and say, I'm not racist, but racism is an issue that plagues your race. And so it is your issue. And so in white fragility, um, white people have to learn how to not have to learn how to accept the issues that plague their community, so that way we can fix racism, but we can't move forward until all white people accept the issues that plague their race.
Of
Um,
course.
this is Mikael's mom. Sorry, I'm listening, and this is very good. Very good. So I do want to, if I can, segue back to a couple other points and come back to what this young man who just spoke previously was saying in reference to his son in schooling. I am a 20-year educator of elementary age children in public school.
Mm.
Going back to, I think, the terminology, you were saying race, being racist and prejudice. I think what happens is people use those terms interchangeably, without making a clear working definition. So
Exactly.
you're right. Racism, Black people cannot be racist because the clearest definition of racism implies that there's a level of power.
Wow.
Have that level of power, and you can see that clearly with the institutional racism that exists. So
Mm,
once you state what the working definition is, then you can go forward. We do have the ability to be prejudiced. We do have the ability to look at stereotypes and create a point or a vision or a view of another group. We do have that ability. All
mm,
people have that. Also, in reference to education and the assignment that your son has received, I will say if there's an issue with that assignment, I would like to charge you as an educator to go to your son's teacher to look at the curriculum,
mm.
to go to the teacher, to go to the principal, and then go beyond, because that's a curriculum issue.
Wow.
And that's a part of what happens. What happens is I can see parents become complacent because parents trust educators immensely. We are
They
hoping that
do.
you will speak up and say, I don't understand why this is a part of what my child is doing. Because there's a level that we can say, and there are some things we cannot say. Does that
Yeah,
make sense what I'm saying?
absolutely.
Yeah. For instance, to tell you guys a quick story, my dad, whenever I was in school, the school systems, whenever I was like in elementary school and middle school, did not like to give books. They did not like to give books. They will say, "Oh, you can't learn from books. We learn from worksheets and all this other stuff." So my dad used to go up to the schools and get in the principals behind, and they hated him. They hated him every year because he would go over there and he would be like, "Yo, where are the books? Show me the like where are the books for everything that he's supposed to be learning? Like show
Mhm.
me the curriculum. Show me what it is that he is learning and why you guys are taking our tax dollars and using it in the way that you're using it." And these were schools that had lead paint poisoning. These were schools that had, asbestos and stuff like that. And when you look at the books fell apart. Books were falling apart, like pieces out of the thing and stuff like that. And that in itself is when we get into that conversation about white privilege. And what people really need to realize when you think about white privilege is when I tell you that story, and you're a white person that might have lived in Harford County or any one of these cities that's throughout America, if you have never dealt with what I'm talking about right now, that's what white privilege is.
Yes,
Plain and simple.
yes, yes. And most of your curriculum writers in that particular district that you are speaking of, I think his name is Titus.
Yes.
Okay, so in that particular school district that you're thinking of, most of those curriculum writers are white women.
Mm,
So just that's another thing to be able to give yourself some power is there are various reports that the state puts out each year in reference to demographics of staff and faculty of each school district that may be something you want to check into as well. Um, it does align to, as you said, the institutional racism. But what I know is people are never going to say that they're racist until they realize that there is something wrong.
mm,
You understand what I'm saying?
mm.
You're not going to say that there's a problem until you recognize yourself that there's a problem and you're willing to admit that there's a problem. So it's not just about the power construct, it is also about a psychological construct. And I don't know how much you can push a person to face a reality of who they are and what they are.
Of
And
course.
also for in my experience, if you guys ever get a chance to read Glenn Singleton, the Courageous Conversation, and some of those things about equity, diversity, and inclusion, one of the things that he talks about is working with your affinity group. So your affinity group is your group that is like you, no matter whatever it is that you determine that is likeness. So since we're speaking about race, it would be blacks being in a group with blacks, whites being in a group with whites. So what happens is because we as black people can't fix white people. This
Right.
conversation, they have to help fix each other.
Hmm.
Mhm.
They
So
do.
when I say the affinity group, And people are like, well, tell me what to do. I can't tell you. You need to go to your group, and your group needs to come together and talk and have that discussion, because my group is going to come together and have that discussion. But we can't fix your group too. So once we all separate and go into our affinity groups, help heal each other, help reveal our truths, help get a better understanding, then we can black and white come back to the table and then start settling some of the things that are going on there.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes.
What was the name of that book again?
it's Glenn Singleton, The Courageous Conversation.
Okay.
And it just talks about like it's what is it called, the compass, and like where you are on the compass, if you are feeling, if you are thinking, if you are believing or acting. And it says that you can be in one of those areas at a time, or you can be in all of those areas at a time. But it also helps guide discussions when someone is willing to have the conversation about race. It's a great tool to use because it gives you the ability to norm the conversation or set up the rules for the conversation, that if everybody agrees to those rules, like keeping your conversation personal, local, and immediate. So identifying yourself before you give your comments. So you're saying, I as an African American woman, I as a teacher, yes, that's it. I as a heterosexual, whatever it is, and however you need to identify for the conversation that you're going to have. And also knowing one of the parts of that compass says that you agree to be uncomfortable, and you agree to walk away with a level of discomfort, knowing that your conversation may not come to any resolution.
Of course. Of
That's great.
course.
Great stuff.
Right.
And guys, definitely check out that book. We're gonna put a link in the description whenever this video comes out on YouTube, to the book and to any resource that we might talk about throughout the video, so that you guys can go back and just go through those things. Now, does anybody else has anything that they want to say about why conversations like this is so hard uh, for people to have, especially in white America?
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, hi. Well, I think it's great that we start these conversations, especially within like white people. We definitely have to like have those conversations with them. Just being able to like just be like blunt about it. This is not something that you can be gentle with with like other white people, I guess.
Mm.
I'm like, sorry, I'm like nervous right now. I don't know why. I always have so much to say, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, like I forget what I'm going to say.
Hey, no, it's fine. This is supposed to be it's a safe place. Just state how you feel.
But yes, it's definitely not okay, and it's just like it's so angering. It's more than anger. It's more than anger, and I think anger should be like pushing people to want to like do more, which is important. We should be doing that, but we don't really see well, I don't know if we don't really see that, but I'm rambling.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
The thing I could say, personally, as a black man, there's really a lot of communities. What I do for a living, I'm not around black people all the time. But I'll tell you this, people get to the point in white America where I feel as though, even now, see a little bit of anger, sure. You know what black people are? Disrespected. That would be my question. If I ask somebody to be blunt, usually when I ask, I say, hey, straight up, what is respect to you first? And then tell me if you feel disrespected.
Yeah.
When you start to, and that wonderful woman that spoke about your affinity group, I think that hit me right on the head, because as a group, you get disrespected. As a group, you get told to almost live with being disrespected. And then as a group, you get beat the fuck up. Or we can cuss them.
Yeah, you can. You got
You get beat the fuck up for being mad that you're being disrespected. And I think that's the bottom line. We want respect, man. The conversations get loaded. They talk about reparations, but reparations only comes truly from the respect. Hey, you owe me. Is what we say. And the only way that again, it's back to the resources. This nation's built on money. This nation's built on what it can afford to do. Like again, that's I'm not white, so I can't say it. I can't say it, but as a human, my thought process tells me that look, I see you getting mad. You know, a lot of people have contacted me that are white. And, you know, those words are kind. I appreciate it, but I don't even have anything to say. Like I'm disrespected, right?